What's happening, y'all? So one of the biggest things that I want to talk about right now is why is it that league bowling does not generate more good bowlers? There's one complaint that comes from league bowlers, the 220, 230 plus league bowlers. The one complaint that they have, which is very viable, is that at the center that they bowl at, they don't get the opportunity to bowl on things other than the league pattern. So when you're only bowling on those league patterns, you really never get to see exactly what your bowling ball's doing. You never get the experience of playing different angles on the lanes because let's be honest, with the house shot, with the patterns the way they're built, you don't have to be a great bowler because the patterns they're built to make it to where your ball is basically funneled to the pocket. You miss to the left, there's plenty of oil there, that way your ball just stays there and hits the pocket anyway. You miss to the right, they make it dry enough to where your ball hooks back. On the flatter conditions, you don't have that, at least not right away. Now, the other thing that's really difficult is people don't know how to build an arsenal, and it's really difficult to build an arsenal for anything because most bowling balls look basically the same, especially on a fresh house shot. So I want to talk today a little bit about what we can do to build an arsenal, what we can look for, and try to figure out ways to get better as a bowler, even if we have to bowl on the house shot all the time. Let's talk about all that here in a minute. Stay tuned. All right, so the challenge we have with bowling on league conditions is trying to determine like which bowling ball is different than the other. Like we have numbers, like we know this one's a hybrid, this one's a pearl, this one's a solid. We can kind of make assumptions, but let's be honest, when the lanes are fresh, most of them still look the same. Like you might see some differences with a lot of the solid bowling balls. Clearly they're going to start sooner. They might be a little bit smoother shape overall. But how do we determine which bowling balls are going to make our bag, and how are we going to determine on a fresh league condition, like which bowling balls are going to be different enough to go and be able to make it to where we can make a decision when the lanes are tough? Like this is one of the major reasons why a lot of the best league bowlers, you know, they're 220, 230 average league bowlers. When they go out to USBCs, they average 150, 160. It's like, well, what's the difference? Like they make decisions in league understanding the difference in their bowling balls going from this ball to that ball. But why is it so different out there? Well, it's because of the way the lanes are oiled. It's completely different than what you see in league, and that can cause a problem. And it requires you to be a little bit more accurate out there. You know, you got to make your spares. Whereas if you're striking 7, 8 times a game, you don't have to shoot as many spares. Out there, you're not striking 7, 8 times a game in most cases. So you're shooting at a lot more spares, a lot more opportunities to miss spares, a lot more opportunities to throw bad shots and not get away with it, where you're going to leave splits and washouts and everything else. So it's very vital to create a arsenal of bowling balls that you can work with. So if I throw a shot here, let's say I've got this ricochet I just drilled, and it's a 45 by 5 by 45 layout on it. I'm going to put my feet on 25. I'm going to try to hit that 14, 15, 16 range and see what it does. All right, that looked pretty good, right? So now let me grab this Theorem hybrid. Same layout, but this one is asymmetric and it's a hybrid. So we should expect to see a different result, right? If anything, we should expect to see this hybrid be, you know, a little bit overall stronger because it's got some solid in it. It's got the stronger core, you know, but let's take a look. I'm going to throw it and try to throw it in the same spot. It should be stronger. We should see a lot of differences, right? I could see a little bit of a difference, but to the naked eye, to most people, when you watch the ball go down the lane, you don't really see a whole lot of difference. So when you're watching these bowling balls and you're throwing them both, and they're both striking, how do you decide what to do with these bowling balls? How do you decide which one is stronger, which one's weaker, which one's going to be more rounded, like how do you do that when you're bowling on league conditions that are fresh that makes most of the patterns look the same? You know, that's a very difficult thing. All right, so now I'm going to take another symmetrical pearl. I've got this primal evolution, and it's laid out the same way, and I want to see if it is going to show a difference. All right, maybe a little bit of a difference there. That one got further down the lane. But again, is it enough of a difference to where we can say, okay, let's take that one and this one? Like, how do we go about making these decisions? So my advice, and I could be wrong here, but this is kind of how I see it, is you've got to bowl on not fresh conditions. You've got to go throw these bowling balls when the lanes are beaten up and broken down. And you've got to be able to see, because that's when you're going to see the biggest difference in the bowling balls. You're going to see the difference in how the cover stocks react to all that dry in the front and the oil down lane. You know, go bowl after a day of Saturday league or Saturday open play where the kids are throwing plastic and everything all over. Watch the difference between these balls. It's the best time to go evaluate your equipment, to notice, okay, I can get lined up with this ball and I can throw it here. And now what happens if I throw this ball in that same spot? All of a sudden, this ball that looked almost identical as it did as the other ball on a fresh condition, well, now all of a sudden this one's seeing the friction earlier. It's going high compared to this one that's striking there. Bingo, light bulb should go off. Okay, now we see a little bit of a difference. Like, how many times have you gone to a different bowling center and bowled, let's say you've bowled, let's call it even a sport league, let's say, and you bowled on Cheetah, and it's 35 feet, shorter condition, lots of friction, and you threw this ball that looked really good in this building, and then you take that ball to another building and you throw it there, and all of a sudden it didn't do the same thing. These things, these are the mental notes you need to make in your mind about the differences in the bowling balls. So just because, like, say my primal evolution looks good on Cheetah at Thunderbolt, it doesn't look very good here. You know, you can't necessarily just say, okay, this ball looked good on that pattern in this place, so it's going to look good on that pattern in every place. You've got to understand, okay, why didn't it look good here, but it looked good at Thunderbolt? You know, pay attention. Is it getting too far down the lane? Is it not hooking early enough? Is it hooking too early? Like, is it, retaining too much energy? Is it like not losing enough rotation? Like, what is really going on with your ball reaction? And that's why it's important to train your eyes to see your ball motion going down the lane. It's really difficult to do, but once you find what you're looking for, it becomes a whole lot easier to replicate that. So like a lot of the best bowlers on tour, your EJ Tackett, Belmo, Simo, Troop, all these guys, they're figuring out how to recreate ball motion on all of these patterns, because the end goal is the same. You're seeing all these different patterns. The end goal is still the same, to get your ball to react this specific way, because it's going to A, give you room for error, and B, go through the pins properly. If you can recreate that shape on pretty much every pattern, then you're going to be gold. And that's exactly why guys like EJ and Troop and Belmo and Simo and these guys, that's why they dominate the tour, is because they understand what their bowling balls are doing. They understand what they're looking for, and they understand how to physically generate that type of ball motion no matter what they're bowling on. Whereas guys like me, I can see it. I know what I'm looking for. I haven't quite figured out and put it all together in order to recreate that everywhere. So that's why I'm so hit or miss at times. That's why I can go somewhere and bowl on a certain pattern, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm leading the squad. And then the next thing you know, I come out the next block and I'm not able to recreate that. I'm not using enough of my knowledge, enough of my skill set to grab the correct ball, to create the correct rotation, to recreate what I had the day before. That's exactly why a lot of people, they end up going into, the second day of a tournament on the same pattern, and they're just not able to do the exact same thing they did before. And they're just not able to recreate that ball motion they were looking for and they found the day before. So my suggestion always is going to be, go bowl when the lanes are not fresh. If you don't have the ability of somebody to put a pattern out for you and practice on them, even those patterns, you need to be bowling on them when they're transitioned. It's one of those things. You've got to see your balls on how they're going to react through transition type periods, not always on the fresh. Because I can sit here and I can go grab 15 different bowling balls and sit here and strike for hours on this pattern, because pretty much all of them are going to look really, really close to the same. You're creating that same thing. So you've got to get yourself in some environments that make you uncomfortable, that make your ball reaction bad, so you can learn to create good ball motion. Not just complain because the lanes haven't been oiled in a couple of weeks or whatever it may be. Go out there and practice on those. That's what's going to make you better. Seeing the lanes tougher, creating different angles, creating different shapes. Go do these things and try to figure out how to create an arsenal so you can then understand, well, hey, here's my progression. This ball's stronger than this ball, stronger than this ball, stronger than this ball. This symmetric ball is doing this different than this symmetric ball. In transition, these two balls are completely different in this way. Although they look the same on the fresh, I'm going to choose this ball because I know through transition it reacts better than this ball. And then when this ball stops reacting a specific way, I have this ball to go to. Like you have to put this stuff into play. So I hope this helps. Make sure to head over to 10pindoctors.com. Get yourself a release training stand, the base, everything you need, so you can practice your release, be able to create these different shapes that you're trying to create, and I'll ship them out to you. We'll get them out to you over there. Head over to bowlerx.com, get all your bowling goods over there. Don't forget, until December 1st, you have discount code at 10pindoctors.com is Christmas10. Get 10% off everything over there that you want. If you're looking to get that release trainer or one of the different release trainers with the base, head over there and get yours today. That's all I got for you. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Take care.